Now, I want to introduce a lady, also an alumni of the University of Nairobi. I thought she should be able to speak to us at this forum before we bring in the guys online, Professor Gwanta. I know we are pressed for time, but she's on the global arena. I want her to speak to us 2 minutes, Nelly. Then you introduce our online speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Njogu, and it's a real honor to actually be here. I've been working for the last 4 years, and I've actually not worked with pharmacists, like this, or had stories intimately like this. So I think this symposium is quite nice because I'm actually really, really inspired, to hear, like when Doc, you paint the picture of your journey, when we hear stories about people who've actually, been here for 50 years and done amazing things, to just get to hear those stories so intimately like that is actually so inspiring. I don't know about the students, but I am very inspired. Like Doc said, my name is Dr. Nelly Nyaga. I currently work with the WHO in disease surveillance as a business analyst. And thank you. But I think for me, well, this was, a dream for me. I think the part of my journey that I'm very proud of is how I got there. And I think even when I'm doing mentorship, when I'm talking, the part that I'm actually really proud of is, how I got there. And I'll be very brief. So I was one of those people who set out with a goal, and I was sure this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a researcher. I wanted to go into drug discovery from, even before I joined uni, I wanted to discover drugs. And then I came and discovered, okay, it's actually called drug discovery. And even from when I was in first year, every decision I made was towards that goal, right? So after second year, I took a break. I went to study medical physiology, the intercalated degree. Why? Because it was a research degree. And I thought, okay, this is a good stepping stone, get there, learn how to do research. And so I did that, then came back a class behind, went on with pharmacy, and you're working hard and you're working so that you get all distinctions. You want to get A's. Why? Because you know that you need a master's, you want a scholarship, and then to get a good scholarship, you need these good grades. And then so the path was so clear. By the time I was finishing fifth year, I had already, I was talking to professors abroad and, making connections and just I had this path in my mind that this is a straight path and I have everything it takes to get me there. And then we finish, and then we are choosing places to go for internship. And I also wanted something different. I wanted something different, and the hospital I wanted to go to, or where I wanted to go to, was not on the list. So I wanted to go to Turkana. Why? Because I don't know. I wanted a different experience because I felt like if I get a different experience, then it may open up a new world. It was not an internship center. So I remember going to Dr. Ndwega and telling him, this is what I want. I know it's not on the list. I know it's not an internship center, but this is what I want. What do I do? And he was like, okay, we can make it happen. Write to PPB, write to this person, also write to MOH, write to this person. So today I was actually looking for the email that I wrote to PPB and to MOH, and I told them my dream, the reason I became a doctor was for those people, the people in a place like Turkana. And if you do this for me, this will be, fulfilling the dream of my deepest dream. And I got a call the next day and I was told, you know what, go to Turkana. So I landed in Turkana, and I'm the first pharmacist or the first intern, whether it's a medical doctor or pharmacist who's ever been in Turkana. I remember getting off the plane and the heat. I thought something was wrong with the plane. And I asked myself, what have I done to myself? It was hot, unbearably hot. It was February. It was apparently they have some heat wave that comes in February. But here I was. And I knew, I felt that, I'm here and I'm going to do something here in this place. This is where God wants me to be here. This is where I'm meant to be in my life. So I get there, I don't know anyone. They speak a different language. Pharmacists work for like 1 month, then they go home for 2 months. So you're not even seeing, a lot of colleagues there. And then, but with time, I made friends who are pharmacists and I created a routine. And then at the hospital, I wanted to do something different. I was the first pharmacist there. I was not just going to come and live like that. And I said, I want to be in the hospital. I want to be on the bedside. There were so many leishmaniasis cases, Kala-Azar, the most resistant form of TB and HIV because these people are pastoralists, so they are always moving around, so they don't take drugs. And I said I want to be there. And so I went to my supervisor and I told him, I want to start a pharmacovigilance program here. I want to see, how do these patients with Kala-Azar and leishmaniasis, how do they, when we are also treating them for HIV and TB, I want to do something to just monitor them to see how they respond, to see adverse drug reactions and all those things. So that's what we did for 8 months in Turkana. And by the time I was leaving, I was being offered a job there, but I said, let me go and see, what else is out there. And when I left, I was still working on my master's, right? I was still working on these scholarships and I got admissions, but it was COVID year and I don't know, there were funding issues and I didn't get a scholarship at all. I couldn't get a scholarship at that time. I had no funds. I had no way to actually self-fund. So all these dreams that I had built my whole life came down crashing on me. What do I do? This was the only path I had ever envisioned for myself. I could see myself with, when I was to go for those scholarship interviews, I'd tell them I can see a Nelly Nyaga Research Institute because that was what I wanted for myself. And I had done everything right to get me there. So, okay, I had to start from scratch again. So I was very interested in tech and I discovered this whole new world called global health. I didn't know what it was. So I just wrote random emails to random organizations. And I was like, my name is Nelly and I would like to volunteer at your organization to learn because I didn't know what global health was. So if I said I want to come and work on what? I wanted to learn. And graciously, one of our senior pharmacists, Dr. Nyalita, she was working at KHF, Kenya Healthcare Federation then. She replied to my email immediately and said, come, let's have a chat. She wanted to have a chat. So once I finished my internship, I went and we had a chat in her office. And in 15 minutes, she told me, do you have your laptop? I said, yes. Here is your desk. You have a new job. I will give you $500. So she was giving me lunch and transport. But to me, even today, as I do this W2 job, that 500,000 or that 50K was the best money of my life. Because for me, it was hope, it was a seed, it was possibility. Like I'm gonna do so much if I can actually get this 50K. What more, as in there's so much more that I can get. And this is something I've worked for. It's not the internship money that you're assured of. This was something I got for myself. And I told her that is more than enough. But those 6 months that I worked there, and it worked, I sat with CEOs. I used to spend days in CEOs' offices across this Nairobi, and I would ask them one question. Tell me how you made it. How did you make it? That was the question. I would write emails. Can we please have coffee? Can we please? And my question was, how did you succeed? And all these people would tell me their stories, and they were normal stories. There was no magic. It was, I started this job, I worked hard, then this happened. I said yes to this opportunity. I failed. I tried again. And soon after hearing like 10 stories of, very successful people, I was like, I can do it. So I just need to start and keep doing it. So one time, one thing I always do was I wore my dreams on my sleeve. So even when Dr. Nyalita hired me, I told her, this is what I want. I love tech and I love research and I want to figure a way to get there. So anytime in the organization there was an opportunity for tech, Nelly, go. Nelly, go. Because she knew I had told her this is what I wanted. So one time she sends me to a thing in Mombasa for MOH on data. And I know nothing about what these guys are talking about. But I go, there's a CEO there of a company called Intellisoft. I go and tell him, my name is Nelly, I'm a pharmacist. I have done trainings in data analytics and all that. And can we have coffee? Because I want to know what you do. And he told me, Nelly, what is coffee going to help you with? We have 1 hour coffee, then what? He told me, this is the website to our company. Go look at it and tell me what you can do. I want you to have a contract with us on Friday. It was Monday. I was like, what? And then so on Friday we have lunch and he asked me, so what can you do? And I told him, in campus I did a lot of research. I can write grants, I can do research, I can literally do anything. I told him I can do anything. And he gave me the job. And so I left Dr. Nyalita and went to work with IntelliSoft. In 2 years, I went from, so this organization had never hired a doctor. It was a tech company. They developed solutions for Africa for health. The company is made of software engineers. So he said, Nelly, this is your new position. You're the health informatics consultant. I don't even know what that was. And I want you to create a strategy for this and build something, Nelly. And then he asked me, what do you want from this? And I told him, again, I was wearing my dreams on my sleeves. I told him I want two things. I want to be able to earn money to fund my master's, because clearly, I don't know why it's so hard to get a scholarship around here. I want to get a master's. I want to do my master's, and I want to work for WHO. You know what he told me? Let's get you there. That's what he said. He was, let's get you there. Give me let's work 2 years and let's get you where you want to be. So I went in there and I worked. Remember, this is a new environment. I don't know a lot about tech. Everyone around me is a dev, and I had to humble myself down. And I think, Doc talked about it today, the pride that we carry, and you don't want to learn, you don't want to volunteer. I had to humble down and I had to learn from these guys who went to main campus, and how we think, oh, they didn't get A's. I had to sit down and learn from them. I had to learn from people who've done econ. I had to learn from everybody. You humble yourself. They would call me doc, and I would feel like, oh, maybe that will make them feel like I'm inaccessible. So just call me Nelly and teach me. And I learned in 2 years in that organization. I think my salary had been increased so much, even, and I never went to be like, oh, could you increase? But I worked so hard. One of my primary roles was writing grants, and I brought so many grants to this organization. And then I left as the head of strategy and technical delivery. That was my title. I headed a whole department. I created a path to bring people with a healthcare background, from pharmacists to doctors. And I was like, there's a need. When we're developing software for health, we need healthcare providers there. And so we ended up with a whole portfolio for for pharmacists, doctors who, worked in that company to support that. And then with that now, from there, you are working with all these global organizations. You're working with WHO, with USAID, with UNICEF. And that's what I wanted, right? So when a job opened up at WHO, I just applied. And I had, in a short time, I had worked enough to show that, I can actually do this. And that's how I ended up there. So that it's amazing that I got to, one of my dream jobs at that time. But for me, it's just, all, the paths, like Doc says, when you fail, fail fast and fail forward, move on quickly. Don't spend time crying and just fail and fail forward. And then so in September of this year, I'm finally starting my master's in precision medicine, which I always wanted to do. So somehow, when when you just stick to those things that you want, somehow you'll find yourself there. And I think there's a reason why you don't get what you want when you want it. Maybe it's coming. Just keep at it, and eventually all the things you want, all the things you dream about, your personal legend, it will come true if you're actually doing it honestly and honestly. So if you find yourself, I don't know, volunteering somewhere or doing something that you don't envision, just do it with all your heart, because there's something about the universe and rewarding people who go after their passions. So that was more than 2 minutes. So without further ado, I have the honor of inviting, they're online. So I hope they're still here with us, because we are kind of behind schedule. So our first will be Dr. Esther Ndambiri. She's a pharmacist practicing in Germany. and she's going to, share with us the experience, the opportunities, challenges of working in diaspora in Germany. So, Dr. Esther, please start. She sent her presentation, so if we could please project it right now. But Doc, you can maybe start by introducing yourself as we get your presentation up. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll just go ahead. Maybe you can just share the screen. Yeah. So thank you so much to all the presenters who were there before me, and to all the great, let's say, presentations and the sharing of stories, and the opportunity to just present in this forum. I think it was just so refreshing to see that a new block, a new pharmacy building has been opened. And so it just brought really good memories that, yeah, looking back, that we've come a long way. So my name is Esther Ndambiri. I'm a pharmacist by training. I graduated in 2009. And well, I have worked in Kenya, and I'm also now currently working in Germany. And so when Prof. Gwatai reached out and said, could you share your experiences working in outside the borders of Kenya? I said, of course I would. And I think one of the challenges I would like to start with that is the fact that for most of us women who are in the workforce, and they're also mothers, working abroad, there's also another dimension that you do not have any help. And so in the house, and so you play so many roles at the same time. So bear with me, because today then you might hear children in the background, or I might just be available for a few minutes, say 10 to 15 minutes. So with that, I would also like to start the presentation. Could you please move on to the next slide? Right. So I started my schooling at the University of Nairobi, the School of Pharmacy, and it was such a great experience where I got a lot of mentorship from my lecturers and from my preceptors thereafter. And talking about creating opportunities for yourself when you see them. I remember for my internship, I applied to this AMPATH program at MTRH, where we got the opportunity to actually work as clinical pharmacists, which was somewhat different from what was being offered by the government. So this one was a competitive process. And at the time, in 2010, I think we were about 12 in total who were selected. So it was quite a good experience. And from this internship, you get to figure out what you want and what you don't really want to do. And so probably, that direct interaction with patients was not for me. And I remember calling Dr. George Mugi and telling him, could you just give me a job at Universal? I really want to do something there because you're doing some great work there. And so from that perspective, leveraging on your networks, I got the opportunity to actually start working at the Universal Corporation Limited within the quality assurance space. Then I also got the chance to work at the Dawa Limited. For those who would know this company, of course, it's one of the oldest pharmaceutical companies in Kenya. Then when GlaxoSmithKline was still operational, I had the chance to work as a manufacturing pharmacist and also as a quality assurance manager. Then I also had the opportunity to work in PSK as the CEO at that time. And I remember some people asking, why would you leave your high-flying job at Glaxo to come work at the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya? And I thought to myself, I think it's time for me to see what impact I could have from, a practice perspective. And so there we worked a lot on Green Cross. And at that time, I think we branded about 400 pharmacies together with Glaxo, who was my previous employer. Thereafter, I got the chance to work in Merck KGRR, so through a fellowship program. So that's the Africa COMT program. And I would just like to highlight here that you should also look out for opportunities. There are many of them, whether they're fellowships or scholarships. And you could reach out to me, for example, if you want guidance on how to apply for them or where to find them if you want to work outside of the country. And I think for me, this was quite an enlightening experience for me because it's a totally different ballgame, and I'll come to that later in the next slides. but also quite an enriching experience. And currently I'm working at BioNTech. So this is a company that basically developed the COVID-19 vaccine together with Pfizer. Yeah. So maybe some of you got vaccinated against COVID-19 with our vaccine. So on the left here, I had the chance to meet the German president, the VVIP. I think he's more accessible than, our own president. So I'm not being biased here. It's just that I had the chance to meet him. And I always think that this is one of the highlights of the fellowship in Germany. So my background, basically in terms of technical expertise, it's in quality assurance in manufacturing and QC, pharmacovigilance, project management, and strategy implementation. And also, I think it's been cut at the bottom. Yeah. But I think what I'd like to say here is that we've got a lot of opportunity as pharmacists to be very versatile. And if you are interested in lateral growth, because that's what I've had the chance to do, is to be open to opportunities, just like the previous speakers have said. And sometimes you might not, you might look at a job description and say, okay, maybe I'm not able to do all of this, but I can do at least 20%. And you really illustrate in that interview that yes, you've had the experience to actually do the 20%, but you're also capable of doing the other 80%. For a majority of the employers, I think they would give you a chance if you're really passionate about the work. Could you please move to the next slide? Good. So before I start talking about my experience in Germany, I thought to give a little bit of an overview of the differences between Kenya and Germany in terms of the pharmaceutical space. And there's a lot going on this slide, but I'd just like to focus on the ones highlighted in blue. So here, when we talk about manufacturing or the pharma space, we're really looking at generics, OTC drugs, essential medicines, and of course, more recently, we've got biologics that have come into the market. But when you look at Germany, when you look at the German side, we have got branded pharmaceuticals, sure, but then we've got biosimilars and very innovative therapies. So, for example, right now at BioNTech, we are working on individualized vaccines against cancer, for example. So this is a totally new, innovative therapies that, if you were working probably in Kenya, you would not have heard of them, yeah, let alone have deep knowledge about them, yeah. Then when you look at the local manufacturing space, we've got, of course, oral solids and basic formulations. And here it's not to say that we do not have advancements, of course, in our local manufacturing space, the people getting into vaccine manufacturing, but we're still young. I mean, but when you compare to Germany, they've been doing this for hundreds of years. Yeah, we've got pharmaceutical companies that have been in existence for the past 400 years, for example. When you look at the workforce expertise, you will notice that for a lot of us in the pharma industry, we're really involved after the product has been registered in the market and know very little about what happens before the product actually lands on the market. And so we have got a gap in terms of research and development expertise in this space, right? When you look at Germany, well, they've got very highly skilled professionals, excellent computational biologists, for example, immunologists. I mean, it's not to say that we do not have, these experts, but sometimes we lack the hands-on experience working in a clinical development team or a preclinical research team to be able to get this expertise. Yeah. So when you look at the scope, what you're exposed to in Kenya in comparison to what you're exposed to in Germany, it's quite broad. And sometimes you ask yourself, how comes I've not heard of this before, and you land in a company and all of a sudden you start to hear terms that you've never heard of before. And I think I'd just like to highlight some of these terms that I'm referring to and see how they could be incorporated in our learning, be it in bachelor's or master's or through short courses, right? But I think it's important that we get to understand these perspectives. Could you please go on to the next slide? Move back, please, one slide. I think one of them is just to understand the end-to-end medicine or vaccine development. I mean, I'm not here to give a lecture about early stage development or preclinical development, because I'm definitely not an expert in that. But I think it's important for us to get an understanding from a holistic perspective on what it takes to actually get a vaccine in the market. Where does it all start? I know in our training, we're taught the science behind it, and sometimes it's in bits and pieces, but it would be so helpful, I think, looking back, if somebody told you you're learning about, ADME because, it supports in, candidate discovery and design optimization, for example. So I think this is something that we would need to think about, how we could support students who would be interested in working in industry, especially in, in an environment such as Germany, for example. And so here, just to illustrate and just to, pique your curiosity, right, into, what really happens before a drug gets into, first in human or clinical trials. And so there are two perspectives to this. There's a broader understanding of what, what product or product development is about. But then also there's a chance to really specialize in the different functional expertise that would require you to be able to work in these teams, right? I don't have an answer for this on what kind of training or what kind of delivery of the training would require, but I think it would have been very good for me to have had this knowledge beforehand, right? Okay, could you please move on to the next slide? So this is a continuation from the last slide. So we start with the preclinical stage, then you get into the first in human. You illustrate that yes, these 20 healthy volunteers, we can say that it is safe and efficacious. Then you start going into the larger clinical trials. Then you go into the launch to market, to product supply and LCM. So just to bring you back to, let's say, the way this is my perception, the way I see the pharmaceutical industry in Kenya, and in terms of the expertise we develop, it's more towards product supply and LCM, right? So you've got people in, I don't know, headquarters developing vaccines and drugs, and then you've got the affiliates in Africa, say, we've already developed the product, help us supply it and maintain, its safety and efficacy profile post-market. And this is all fine, but then I think we also need to see, what can we do, in terms of what could be our contribution in terms of the clinical trials part? What would be our contribution in the preclinical stage part? And here there's a lot of opportunity, especially for us as pharmacists, I would say. Yes, I really appreciate that the PPP has created an inventory of clinical trials, but we could do more. There's a lot of need for clinical research associates. There's a lot of need for clinical trial managers, for clinical trial specialists. And these are all roles that I think pharmacists are very well placed to perform. And I think, it's the basic training that you get as a pharmacist is very important. And what you could probably need is a short course, or, I really don't think a master's would be something that would be required. Maybe just a certification. But these are all modalities that we could work out as an alumni to see what are these areas that we could support our students, get opportunities to work in clinical research organizations such as IQVIA or ICON, who are paid insane amount of money to perform clinical trials in Africa. Yeah. So this is one thing which I think is lacking. So this is an understanding of end-to-end medicine or vaccine development. Yeah. So would you move on to the next slide, please? And then I would also just like to highlight that a lot, let's in terms of therapeutics, slowly we're moving away from small molecules, right? So these are the ones that are chemically synthesized, to biologics that are derived from living organisms. And here I've tried to create a picture on what biologics are. And this is where the world is moving to, right? Because this is leveraging on your own immune system to fight the disease. And so this brings an additional layer of complexity because they're manufactured different. Yeah, the quality management systems are different. And I think we really need to keep up, because this is the future of where the medicine is going. And I think we need to be prepared beforehand. I think one of the things that I found very challenging as much as I worked in manufacturing, now being on the German side, is that they were talking about, upstream processes, downstream processes, and I had no idea because I had not worked in a biologics manufacturing company before. But I think now we have the Biovax Institute, for example. I think these are places that our interns could get exposure to learn about these new therapies. So I think we really need to start thinking about how we could also include the aspect of biologics in our trainings. Next slide. And yes, so I think also my predecessor spoke a lot about soft skills. Somehow we need to inculcate this in our training at the university, maybe give more opportunities for people to present, to make presentations and present to the rest of the class, for example. But in general, I would say that I see that the training, when I see students coming from, let's say, German universities, they're quite well versed in communicating what they want to say. And not to say that they're any better, but I think it's just the opportunities they're given within, school, either to work together as a team and present on a project that sort of like inculcates all these elements of leadership, communication skills. And then there's also like a really interesting training on systems design thinking, so that you're able to think broadly. Whenever you see a problem, you're able to conceptualize the problem and come up with solutions that deal with that problem in a systematic manner and not just to solve that symptom, for example. And so these are some of the things I think we need to somehow foster within our training. Could you please go to the next slide? Yeah, so maybe what can we do as an alumni or university? I think we could work together to support in mapping out the training areas that can be offered, either as short courses or workshops, and leveraging on existing opportunities for training. I think we should also think about expanding the range of electives or internship opportunities, and also send people to clinical research centers, maybe such as KEMRI or even IQVIA or ICON. And we have got also a number of consulting companies. Then we could develop master's programs to equip pharmacists with the changing market needs. And I think there's a very good case study here that I would like to highlight, and it's called the East African Community Regional Center of Excellence and Collaboration. It's being run by the University of Rwanda, and they've rolled out a number of master's programs in regulatory affairs, in pharmaceutical chemistry and analysis, and so biomanufacturing is also one, and vaccinology. So these are all very interesting areas that are equipping pharmacists and maybe other health practitioners for this evolving field. And I think we could also work towards building partnerships with capacity strengthening institutions such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, CEPI, EDCTP. All these people give out money to institutions that come up with, proposals on capacity building. But I think that one would need to leverage on grant writing expertise. And so with that, I think that's the end of the presentation. And I really just wanted to focus from a work perspective, what I think would be the training opportunities and the challenges we faced as a person working in Germany. So thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Esther. Thank you very much for that amazing presentation and for highlighting, I really liked how you started by walking us through your journey, because I think sometimes, all sometimes we'll see on the, on the program, Esther in Germany, and that's what we want to see. But you see, she's gone through all this. She's worked, she's earned years of experience. She put herself out there for that, fellowship program that got her to Germany. So there's work that we put into, she put into to actually get there. And so thank you so much for that. And I have now the honor to invite our next speaker, Dr. Jane Mwangi, all the way from the US. I know it's very early for you. She woke up very early. We are way behind program, so she's been up from like 4 a.m. waiting for us. So I don't know if you're still there, but just wanted to tell you that we really appreciate your sacrifice, and we are really eager to hear from you. Dr. Jane, please let me know if you can hear us and if you're there.
Hello. Good morning. Is it good morning or afternoon? It's morning here. Can everybody, even my voice is getting lost here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me? Is it loud enough?
Yes.
Yeah, I woke up very earlier, about 4 o'clock, to do this presentation. I am very sorry. I didn't have any. I don't have any presentation to use because I was putting the program quite a little bit too late, so I didn't have time. So I'm just gonna talk off the cuff about my journey also, to just demonstrate my contribution and my role, not only globally, but also nationally. So for people who don't know me, my name is Jane Mwangi. I am one of the pioneer pharmacists at the University of Nairobi. We went in 1974 and graduated in 1978. Actually, Professor Guantai was my next door neighbor, neighbor in the cubicle at medical school, and Dr. Kyoe was on the other side. I was in between them. So we are in our sunset years here. I am retired, of course. So my journey here, and I really want to credit the program at the University of Nairobi, the pharmacy. It's a world-class, training, and that enabled me to move into the different areas that I moved to through my career. We had a very strong given very strong foundation with our internship involved doing 4 months of internship in the industrial pharmacy. I remember I did my 4 months yeah, at Glasgow Limited, I think, and that's when I learned the operation, the production side of it, and also the quality assurance. So that basic education really allowed me to move through my professional life cycle. And I don't think I would have survived without that. So congratulations, and I'm hoping that more effort is done to improve on the current training. And I really don't know. I haven't done enough homework because I wasn't sure I was going to do a presentation. So I didn't look and see how that program has evolved. So I don't want to talk about that because I'll be saying something that's not true. So anyway, so when I graduated in 1978, I was and I had finished my internship. Of course, I was, and also during my internship, we were supposed to do internship in a provincial hospital, and I was sent to Nyeri Provincial Hospital, and I was supposed to be an intern. And when I arrived there, there was not even a pharmacist there to even, train me. So I had to take over. I was like the in charge of that provincial hospitals with in that area. And in that environment, I learned supply chain because I was responsible of receiving the products from Central Medical Store, and also, can you I can hear back. Is that okay? Am I still okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe every online participant, please mute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
Okay. Yeah. So I was responsible of receiving the medication from central medical stores and then send them to the different surrounding health centers. And we used to go in a Land Rover in rough roads and rivers and everything else. And I had to make sure those products reach the end user on time. So that was a good experience that I had. After my internship, of course, I was posted to teach at the medical training center just across Kenyatta Hospital. I was tutor. I think they used to call us tutor or uh, technician, pharmacy tech instructors. There, I contributed to the education of pharmacy personnel. I taught pharmaceutical chemistry, also pharmacology, and also pharmacognosy. While I was there, I was lucky enough to obtain a British Council scholarship to go to UK to do my master's in pharmaceutical sciences. And I did that at the University of Wales Institute of Science and Technology in Cardiff, Wales, in the UK. After I finished my master's, I came back to MTC and continued teaching. But as soon as I came back, I was transferred to Kenyatta National Hospital as a head of pharmaceutical services. And I was also a member of the executive committee at that hospital, where I oversee operations of seven satellite pharmacies and also a surrounding health center. Yeah. While I was there, they just transferred me there without any promotion. And here I was having my master's. Then while I was there, a former professor, the late Dr. Coffey, mentioned to me, "Hey, you can, apply and go to Cambridge with your master's and do research." I said, "Okay, that's very good." So I applied, and I was accepted to join Cambridge. And at Cambridge, I worked in the Traditional Medicines and Drug Analysis Center. And during that short period of time, I worked in collaboration with the physiology department and developed a pharmacological screening testing of an antitussive herbal medicine. The name is Ruby cordifolia. So that was really an experience for me, and I hope that method that we developed is being used now. Of course, I'm out of touch with Camry, and so I don't know whether they're using that. After Camry, while I was at Camry, I my my supervisor, late Dr. Coffey, sent me to represent Camry at a function at is it Silver Spring? And during that meeting, I think there were also some local industry. I met I met the deputy manager and also a technical director from Dow Pharmaceuticals. And there was this job. They kept on advertising, and I was seeing it in the newspaper. They talked about product, it was a product development and pharmacist. So when I told them, "What's this, product development and pharmacist? And why have you, advertised for so long? You mean you can't get anybody?" So they told me, "No, we've been advertising, and also we also had somebody, but he turned it down." So I decided to do some homework. Who is this person? Only to really realize is my classmate, Dr. Dalizo, had already, had gone through. I think he was working with Boots Company then in industry. Then he was offered this job, but then he didn't take it. So I got in touch with Dalizo. I found out what it was, how much they were paying. Dalizo had really negotiated a good price, a good salary for that job. I said, "Okay, I am applying to this, to this job." And unfortunately, when they called for the interview now in my batch of candidates for the interview. I had a plan and I had a WHO ticket to go and attend the FIP, the International Federal, what do they call it? I think International Federation of Pharmacy Association. I think that year, that was in 1984. It took place in Budapest, Hungary. So I had a ticket and I was going. So I called the manager there. I said, well, I am flying out of the country. Can you give me time or give me an opportunity to interview with you when I come back? But and luckily enough, when I came back, they invited me for the interview, and fortunately, I was offered the job and I took it because I thought, well, they had explained to me it's about introducing new products into the market because we want to introduce veterinary products in the market. I said, well, this is a kind of R&D type of thing. And I mean, R&D, maybe I should be able to help. And this is a quicker R&D where you can see your result, because the real R&D takes years for you to see the results. So I said, I think this is a good opportunity for me. So I joined Dower and I worked there for almost 7 years as a product development pharmacist and company pharmacist. And while I was there, of course, Dow Pharmaceuticals was the largest local pharmaceutical company in the country. The other ones were small. And the reason why it was the biggest, this was it was a joint venture between the Yugoslavia, now it's broken down, is Slovene Yugoslavia government with the Kenya government, because our first president, Kenyatta, got together with Tito. Tito was the president of Yugoslavia. They got to, and by that time, Yugoslavia was also considered a developing country. But now, of course, they have moved so far and even surpassed us. They're even in R&D area. So the two presidents, they said they can collaborate together and help each other. And that's how the Dower was started in 1974, where they employed people. Most of them were pharmaceutical tech. They were trained. They went to Yugoslavia. They were trained in different formulation areas. So Dower was kind of a state-of-the-art local manufacturing company producing all different dosage form from tablets, capsules, liquids, and creams, and also sterile sterile products. And while I was in Dow, I had the opportunity to work with multinational companies. For example, we worked with Abbott Laboratories. I don't know if they are still there. And this was a good opportunity because with this joint venture, what happens is tech transfer takes place in this joint venture. So a lot of people who went to Yugoslavia to be trained, they learned and they came here and they came back to Kenya and they were able to operate the whole, the manufacturing unit. And then while we were there, also some multinational companies were interested in collaborating with Dower. And examples were like Abbott. Abbott, we produced their film coated. That's what the first time I learned about film coating of their erythromycin product. We also collaborated with Mark Chapandon, I believe. I think now they are called Sha. I think Mark, they're called Mark now. We also made their film-coated Aldomet, the methyl dopa, the high blood pressure medicine. And also we had, when I went there, of course, we had Bremer Pharma Company from Germany with their line of veterinary products. We were trying to, to import. We were importing in bulk. The veterinary products were importing in bulk, and just doing the final packaging. So we collaborated with that, and of course with Beecham, who produced the antibiotic range of products, from capsules, amoxicillin, the suspensions, and also injectable, because we also had a sterile unit in Dower. And Dower was big because it was exporting products in East and Southern Africa. But then what happened also, Dow was the first company, local company, which won the first WHO rule or drug kit. But after that, we were overtaken by other local manufacturers because our price was high. We had this state-of-the-art production facility with good GMP in place. Our raw materials or the active APIs, that active pharmaceutical ingredients, we were importing the top, the highest quality, and we couldn't compete with the other local manufacturers who are importing cheaper APIs from India and China. So we were like, we lost market. We are operating at 25% capacity utilization. You can survive in such area. But, later on, of course, the company, went into bankruptcy when I was when I came to the USA. I think the company was folded, which was very sad. Of course, on my own during that time, I used to work with these multinational companies and develop a drug registration dossier and take it to Dr. Deborah and Dr. Wanyanga and the Bibiana to make sure my products are being discussed and are being approved on time. So I was really pushing them, and it's for them to help me out. And also individually, I did develop the sugar-coated Dioquine, which was a chloroquine tablet, just from scratch without all the multinational people coming in, and also the paracetamol suspension for babies. So those are my individual contribution. So while I was at Dower, somebody mentioned to me that Mrs. Tessema, what she taught us, what was her last name? She had gotten a scholarship uh, uh, from the U.S. Embassy to study abroad. And one of my high school girlfriend had gone to that program. And this program is for mid-career professionals to come to the U.S. and train in their area of expertise and do internship in their area. So, and this high school girlfriend had been co-opted to be one of the interviewing panel for choosing the people that are going to be awarded the scholarship. Of course, she recused herself when it came to my place because she saw Tessema, Miss Tessema, said, Jane, there is a pharmacist here who came to this program because when I was in UK, she was in Boston with the same program, and she was a lawyer. So and they were in that program there were lawyers and bankers and teachers that had come. They had never seen a pharmacist. So she told me, Jane, we had a pharmacist here and she got the scholarship. Why don't you apply? So I said, okay, I'm going to apply. And of course I applied and got accepted. And that's how I came to the US to do that, mid-career professional kind of an exchange program. It's called the Hubert Humphrey Scholarship for Mid-Career. I don't know whether the U.S. Embassy has the program now. I think they do. So people who are interested, they can find out about that and see whether they can get some opportunities to come to the US and have an exposure in other areas. So when I finished this program, you're supposed to do an internship. And then, but in my case, I didn't know who to approach in the US. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody. I don't even know a pharmaceutical company here. And I said, okay, we do. And by that time, Beecham had merged with Beecham. It had become Beecham Smith Kline. And there was a person who had come from the US to Dower, and I knew he was coming while I was coming to the US. So I brought to my general manager, general manager at Dow. I said, well, I need to do this internship and I don't know how to approach any pharmaceutical company. Can you ask that person, can you give me the information of that person so I can reach out to him? So he reached out, so my manager at Dallas gave me the information. When the person came here, got in touch with me. I said, yeah, you can go and work in our R&D facility at King of Prussia in Pennsylvania. It was SmithKline Beecham. So while I was there, I was assisting. I had a master's. So they were paying me like $32,000. Okay, I thought that was great. Okay. And then while I was there, I was working with principal investigators with PhD, and they were earning that time like $52,000. I said, well, I think I better go and do my PhD and earn as much as these people. So what I did, I started, and while I was there, I was working with principal investigators, developing different documents that are required for filing of a new product. I was involved in the validation studies there. So I was exposed to a lot. And they were impressed by my experience and what I brought into the group. In fact, while I was there was a problem where they were trying to transfer a product from R&D to production from that facility in Pennsylvania to New Mexico. And they had come across a problem. It was a kind of a fluid-based dryer spraying mechanism. And the spraying was not a liquid, was a suspension. So the spraying gun was getting clogged. So it came back to the R&D for us to find out why is the spraying gun getting clogged with this suspension. And this drug you must be familiar with is Coreg. It's a carvedilol. It's already in the market, and I'm sure it is in Kenya. So I worked with the principal investigators and other people in a teamwork, and were able to solve that problem. And the product was introduced into the market. And during that time, when I saw, the principal investigator is earning almost double what I'm earning, and I said, well, I better go to graduate school here. So what's the procedure of doing it? I had to do my GRE and then apply. So I applied. While during that 1 year, I applied to different people, to different colleges. Then nobody accepted me. So I went to my director at the SmithKline, the R&D, and I told him, no, during that time, there in that R&D, there was a professor, Dr. J.B. Schwartz, who was well-known professor in industrial pharmacy, was one of, and I knew about him because I'd read papers, that he had written. I found out that he was one of the members of a blue ribbon panel to come and advise on how what research should be done in that area. That's just common in the U.S., where you form an expert group, a blue ribbon panel to show you how to move forward. So, and I recognize this name, J.B. Schwartz. I know him. So I went to my director and said, no, you know what? I've applied, I passed my GRE, I have applied to so many colleges here and nobody's taking me. And Dr. Schwartz is coming here. And I want to find out if I can talk to him and find out exactly why I am being rejected. Is it my credentials, my pharmacy education from Kenya that's not good enough? Because I passed the GRE, it's not good enough. So my director said, okay, Jane, I'll see what I can do. So the blue ribbon panel came and they went around, and he never called me because I could see them going and discussing and walking through the R&D facility. So I had given up. Okay, I'm not going to talk to him. But during a break, we were celebrating somebody's 30 years of service in a veranda outside. So we went, and apparently the blue ribbon panel were there. So I was just standing in the back, and my director comes to tell Jane, okay, I want you to, can I introduce you to Dr. Schwartz? And then Dr. Schwartz, he was in a hurry because he was trying to go back to, back to Philadelphia. So he gave me his card. So when he gave, call me. So I called him. And then they said they went and pulled my address. They said my credentials are okay. And the head of that pharmaceutics department called me and said, yeah, we have been promised 2 additional teaching assistantship that that we can give, and once we get it, you give it to you. So my scholarship problem was solved. I said, thank God, I got accepted, and I have got the scholarship. And in during that time, I also worked with Schwartz because I had a teaching assistantship, teaching and supervising labs, pharmaceutics lab, and organic chemistry lab. And also that's another area where the training from the University of Nairobi can be considered as world class. So when I was a tutor and walking around, people, kids, the students were doing their practical pharmaceutics. They're just following directions, how to, do their practical. And I would walk around and I said, why are you doing this? Do you know why you are doing? And they didn't even have a clue why they were doing some things. And the kids would really get mad at me. Why am I not? And if they ask me a question and I know they should know the answer, I wouldn't answer them. So I was very unpopular with those students. But you know what? Whatever question I asked them and why they were doing certain things in a pharmaceutical lab, or even in organic chemistry. Organic chemistry, I didn't get a feedback. Those kids later on told me, oh, you see, Jane, if Jane is your tutor, taking those pharmaceutical quiz is just like walking through the park. You'll just get high marks on that one, and that's an indication of how the good foundation of the University of Pharmacy. Pharmacy education. So after that, of course, I did my PhD, and I moved on. When I finished my PhD, I worked with a veterinary company. It was called Meriol Limited. It was an R&D company, animal health company, and it was a subsidiary of Sanofi Avanti's a company. When I went there, they had developed a product, a veterinary product. It was a polymer based, and it was time to do tech transfer from R&D to production, and also prepare the CMC part of drug registration, chemistry, manufacturing, and control. So I was given that task to go, and with my experience from Dower, from Glasgow, I knew what was, it was very easy for me. So when I went there, and we went to the manufacturing, contract manufacturing plant in Canada, in Montreal, in Canada, Cambridge, in Canada. And I went and told that I told them, my boss, this thing is not going to work. Their mixer is so weak. We're dealing with polymer here. And I almost got into trouble with with my boss, saying, why am I doing this? I'm causing trouble and everything else, because they really wanted to push that product out, quick. I said, well, you can go ahead. I have had experience with this product and how to mix this product and how to dissolve this product. If you don't have a good mixer, you won't get it. And anyway, my boss pushed me to do it, and I went to Canada. And you know what happened? All we ended up was a big, thick polymer at the bottom of a container, where we had now to start cleaning that container, bring a contractor and do a validation of the cleaning method for us to do it. And then in the end, we developed a better mixer, and we were able to produce, to manufacture that product. And we had our stability batches, and we put them in stability studies and went. So, and that time, So towards the end, I ended up working with as a civil servant with the USAID, where I was I was a technical advisor and also gave technical direction to our pharmaceutical quality assurance product manager because we were buying products for donation to the developing countries from Europe, Pfizer, Bayer, Mark, Mylan from India, Inceptor from Bangladesh, and of course I retired in 2023. So now that's my story and my role and my contribution to education, both locally and internationally. So I'll move to training gap. Here, I'm not the right person to discuss this because I really don't know how the pharmacy education at the University of Nairobi has evolved for me to be able to do it. All I can say from my industrial pharmacy perspective is that we need to think of or train or certify people on advanced manufacturing techniques, which is a continuous manufacturing of small molecules to improve efficiency and reduce waste and also increase flexibility in production. Another area of gap that I could just think off the cuff is the area of biologics, and other people have talked about the biosimilars, such as vaccines. Maybe, I don't know whether there are courses in molecular biology, biotechnology research, so that you can better understand the manufacturing processes and regulatory and QA aspect of this if you're going to approve these products in the market. They are very new, like Humira was introduced very recently, and there are more biologics and biosimilars, and they are very, very, very different. So we need to educate people in that area. Of course, they're training people in regulatory compliance. In the US, we have what we call certification by the RAPS Society, which is a regulatory affairs professional society, gives you certification in quality assurance, and it's very easy to get jobs with the pharmaceutical industry. Of course, political will is another way, the thing that is of concern here, where the government can support local manufacturing and protect them or incentivize local manufacturers to go into joint ventures and tech transfer, similar to what happened in Dower. Of course, globally also, we can explore how local manufacturers with the government and international bodies like the UN to get into this global collaboration of medical patent pool. And this is an association where patent drugs by R&D companies give licensing to local manufacturers. It's happened in India. India is doing very well producing HIV products for middle to low, for low to medium income countries, and that encourages technology. So we should look into that area and expanding on that area. And of course, R&D, going into R&D. Right now, Kenya is a processing pharmaceutical industry. How do we move to R&D, not depend on other countries outside? And this is 75 years from now. I will not be here. I'll be 6 feet under. 100 years. This is a time to look into the future. And the challenges, I'll just go quickly. Challenges, when I came here, I had to do TOEFL exam, having spoken English. I had to do pharmacy graduate equivalent exam. I was like 18 years experienced pharmacist, and here I was being told I'm not a pharmacist. I worked as a technician before I can take the NAPLEX exam. I worked for 4 years while I was in graduate school to get this exam. And I hope also from the regulatory perspective, we are requiring people to undergo this. And this is another example I want to stress about the good foundation of University of Nairobi training. I was worried 18 years from college, will I be able to pass this? But see, with our strong, long answers, no multiples, and having international, lecturers for coming and examining us on orals, we used to have that, gave us a good foundation. When I took this, the course, the pharmacy equivalence exam, I passed with flying colors because they were multiple choice. We had learned about the principles of things, and it was very easy for you to get the right answer when you were given a multiple choice. Then I had to do the GRE exam, graduate record exam, and I had already had a master's, master's from UK. I still had to do that, and of course. Postgraduate sponsorship is difficult to get scholarship. I was just lucky enough to get that scholarship that helped me move forward. And of course, when I ended up working with the U.S. government, I had to give up my Kenyan citizenship because USAID was under the State Department. One had to go through security clearances. And even when I traveled across the world to Europe, to Thailand, and Bangkok and everything, I was representing the US government, and I also held a diplomatic passport. So they forced me to give up my Kenyan citizenship. I could not hold dual citizenship. So I just didn't like it. Of course, the opportunities, a lot of people have talked about the opportunities, certification in different areas, which we have, and I think I'll end up there. And so I wish you all the best for this, the 50th year of the celebration. And I am sorry I didn't have any prepared presentation, and I could have taken too long. Thank you for your attention.
A round of applause for Dr. Jane. Thank you very much for walking us your journey. It's very rich and very inspiring, and it's actually very inspiring to see that, even after you've worked for years and years, you still have to keep putting yourself out there. You still have to keep, going through these challenges that you then find a way to figure out that we actually never stop figuring it out. We are always on the journey. So due to time, we are not going to have our speakers, Dr. Maurice Luenya and Dr. Paul Dalizu, but we want to appreciate them for their willingness to participate in this session. So let me just check if they're online. Dr. Maurice, are you online? Please unmute yourself if you are online, Dr. Maurice and Dr. Paul or Dr. Dalizu. If you're online, please indicate. There? Could you check? Maybe just type his name and check if he's online.
Are they online? Because I think those are time difference issues. They are in California. I am in East Coast, in Washington area. Dalizu and Morris are all the way in California, and their hours were different. Are they there? I don't think so.
No, I don't think they're there.
Yeah, I don't think they made it because they raised the issue of timing. It would have been like 2:00 a.m. And then I think they're still working. They haven't retired. So during the day they are working.
All right. But we appreciate their willingness to participate. So thank you very much, Dr. Esther Ndambiri and Dr. Jane Mwangi, for taking us through, the global pharmacist role, and also to Dr. Fred Sioi and Dr. Lois Machogu for talking to us about the contribution of pharmacists in Kenya in regulation for the past 50 years. So that brings us to the end of this session. A round of applause for everyone, and thank you so much for your patience. Have a wonderful lunch, but I'll let Prof say something if we're done. Okay. Sorry.